never had a chance to talk to you about this since you came back, about beating Aston Villa in the FA Cup and with Stevenage. What was that like?
Comfortable. No, listen, the coach down there is magnificent, and he's one of the best. They tell me he's record in cup competitions. He'd never been knocked out to a club ever below him in a pyramid of any league, and so it was a great day for us. We hang on in spells. We hung on to being 1-0 behind when Villa had a lot of the ball, but not creating chances. And we always felt we could catch them. We could catch them overplaying at the back, and we did. So we equalised from a clear and obvious penalty. We're probably disappointed at the time it's not 10 men, but it's a penalty, and then we go and get the winner. Magical day, but FA Cups are either bring tears of happiness or tears of sadness, don't they? And so I've been on both ends of it, great days and not so nice days.
It is a game like that reminds you that there is still a bit of something about this competition, because it has felt like it's been devalued as time has gone on, but when you see an unpredictable result like that, it kind of all makes it worthwhile again, doesn't it?
Well, I think the FA Cup is renowned worldwide, isn't it? And all the best coaches in the world, when they come to England, like the Mourinhos, etc., want to win it. And they want to win it because they know the magic of it and they know the surprises of it, and there's no givens. What we know this weekend is there'll be non-league clubs who'll beat league clubs. There'll be surprises, and it'll happen in the next round. In the third round, there'll be League Two clubs or one clubs beat Championship or Premier League clubs. It's what happens. It's a cup competition that, on the God-given day, if the senior team doesn't have their attitude and their game plan right, they'll go out the cup.
So what's the FA Cup mean for Rotherham United this year? How important is it in a season that is feeling like the league is so vital for the league?
Well, the league is number one priority and is very vital, and we're working so hard to get there in our form and our results and everything else. But the FA Cup is never a distraction. The FA Cup is also always welcome, certainly in the Evans household. We've had wonderful days, Old Trafford, Villa Park, and my team's playing exceptionally well. So they're wonderful days. And I think every town or every city rejoices when their team has a cup run. If you looked at the Geordies and you looked at Newcastle, if they ever run in the FA Cup, you see the excitement that creates over and above the fantastic job Eddie's done with the Premier League. So we would like to progress on Saturday and take our form to Barnsley before we have a little break.
One thing that struck me over the last few weeks, speaking to some of your players in press conferences, we had a chance to speak to Zak Jules today, Rafferty recently, Reece James, Johnson, Clark, Harris. They all seem to be well-spoken, intelligent. Has that been sort of a conscious thing as you've tried to build this team to bring a certain kind of character to the group?
We've got a terrific squad of players. There's been a number of players, either individually or collectively at times, underperforming. We know that. Here we set 5 points on the playoffs. I look at teams 2 points above us, so you're talking about automatic promotion, how good they've been. We talk about we're striving to find the form that we'll need to be at the top end of this league, and that's the word striving. But we're also fair to say that on the opposite side, because Steve Evans is a manager, then we'll never get credit for key players. Massive players been missing for us. There's not a player didn't want Raggett. There's not a club, didn't want Raggett. There's not a club didn't want Johnson, Clark, Harris. Not many clubs didn't want Rafferty. We've been missing some big players for long periods, not just for the odd game or two. And that's to be our hindrance. But also said on that, we have squad players that have not stepped up either and found their form. So we're striving to find form. Was that a conscious effort to pick players who could talk in a camera? No, it was a conscious effort to pick players who can play on the pitch. And our job is to make sure that we get as many of our better players onto the pitch as possible.
One player who continues to create a lot of debate amongst Rotherham fans is a player that you praised for changing the game last weekend, in Jordan Hugill. I saw some fans essentially pointing, look at the impact he's had, that's why he's important to Rotherham United. But you also sort of see fans saying, do you know, I couldn't even get that excited that it was he who scored. That seems to be the kind of attitude amongst the different supporters. What would you say to anybody who is still sceptical of Jordan Hugill, maybe even a bit frustrated still by him when he comes on? One of the first things he did, Steve, he's down on the deck again. You're in position, in an attacking position. You could hear a few moans and groans. What would your message be?
So Jordan's pedigree as a player is not in question. It's only today when we were doing some transfer work, myself and the senior staff, is we were looking around strikers. And if you look at Jordan Hugill's CV and who he's played and where he's played for and consistently for, tells you what's in the locker. Some of your supporters maybe should just go back and look at the form that Jordan displayed coming in when he did join the football club and keeping them up in the Championship. He was, in my opinion, unplayable some weeks. And I was at a distance. I'm just catching up on the games in the last few months, weeks. And it's fair to say that he's another player that's been striving to find form that we need to find. But what you can't knock is the man, the individual, the guy who cares, the guy who's tearful when he don't get selected. And that's not show, that's not in front of me, that's not for anything. He's a really good guy, and we want him to do well. The nice thing we have collectively with the fans is they want him to do well too. We're trying to, I think I said it, to stop that wheel. Have we stopped it? Yeah, because we've stopped loss after loss after loss. As our chairman said, embarrassment after embarrassment, 3-0 half-time, 4-0, 5-0, 3-0, 4-0, you've been there. And so we stopped that wheel. But it's much harder to turn the wheel in the other direction when you're striving to get your best players collectively and 100% fit on the pitch. And Jordan Hugill is one of them. We thought he'd have a major impact this season. And he's working so hard to find that form. Let's hope over the next few weeks he can display it, because when January comes, it's no secret that we will strengthen our group in January, and that'll be in areas of the pitch that we identify that we need to. And at the minute, we'd identify up top as being as an area that, at the minute, we need to have concerns around.
You mentioned you were having transfer meetings. Has that already happened then? Is it round about now when you'll get together as a group and plot out what might happen in January?
Yeah, I had a long meeting with Rob Scott last week, so we're well aware of the work and the diligence that Rob and his couple of guys and the team there are going into. And I suppose the other real meeting is myself and the chairman and Richard and Karen. They're probably the principal four of us that would sit down. Karen because finance, of course our chairman because he says yes and no ultimately, and Richard has a massive part to say in that as well. When it comes to the actual bodies, the players, the systems, it doesn't matter who the manager at Rotherham United is. You get the backing, you get the support. So there's a lot of work going on now, is to identification of where we need to strengthen the team, and supporters will have different opinions of where we need to strengthen. Some will arguably every position at the minute because where we are, but in reality I keep maintaining it. We're saying we've been, it's been a really iffy start to the season, and here we are set 4 or 5 points off the playoffs with some major opposition games already out the way away from home.
Finally, can the cup help with January plans? 'Cause I don't know exactly what the prize money is for winning a round, winning 2 rounds, getting a big team in the 3rd round, let's say. But can that have a big impact?
Listen, any team in League One that can go to Old Trafford, that can go to Newcastle, that can go to the Emirates and play in front of a full house with a massive travelling support, absolutely it helps. Where I know it helps with us more than any other team, I know for a fact that every penny we gain from that cup run goes back into the team. And not all clubs are managed, or not all clubs in League One will have that benefit. So we're very fortunate. We have a wealthy owner who spends big money, and we're very fortunate that he can instruct all of us that whatever monies we gain from or attain from a cup run go back in the team. And we're already going to be active in January, we know that for sure.
Thanks, Steve.
Thank you.
Steve, you've talked in the past about Rotherham having the greatest FA Cup record. The last time they beat a league side was when you were here first time round, Bradford 3-0 down in New York. Well, there as a fan. Ready to change that tomorrow?
Yeah, we hope so. We know that Cheltenham will be tough. If people look at it's going to be an exact Michael Flynn team. I know Michael really well. I've got a lot of respect for Michael as a head coach, manager. He's got them playing very akin to how he had his Newport team many moons ago, how they're playing. So they're very strong in forward areas, particular wide areas. Strong defensively, big strong boys. Of course, Alan Stubbs' boy, Sam, who's scored against my teams on a few occasions in the past, plays for them. So it will be. We know enough about Cheltenham. Our players have been briefed and So we're well aware that this is not a given just to go through to the next round. We'll have to turn up and perform.
You said last week that Sean Raggett could have played at a push, and that you wanted to get a good week's training into him. Has that happened?
Yeah, Sean's trained this week. Sean's trained. Whether we deduce he's good enough, fit enough, sharp enough, ready enough to play, we'll determine when we're coming after training today, when we look at everyone. But we're getting closer. Clark Harris is up at 80% and running. Sean McWilliams is 90%. So we're getting closer now to having the group that we need to have. And we certainly want that group available to us November and December. This is a key period leading up through Christmas, and then we get into January. What I said to you before, if we were sitting in the middle of January and we were 3-4 points from the plus, given where we were in September and October, we'd have ticked that box. But there's a bit more hope and a bit more belief in the group now.
Zak, the manager's talked quite a few times recently about how this has been quite a challenging summer for you. How much of an impact has that had on you in the last few months?
Yeah, it's been quite difficult in terms of balancing what happens off the field, as well as obviously focusing on your job really, which is to perform and to help the team get results on a weekly basis. So it's been a bit challenging to balance, but yeah, I think with those kind of things you just need a bit of time to kind of find what works best for you and yeah, clear your head, I suppose.
I guess that's one of the hardest things about football, isn't it? You often don't get time to sort of do the things you've just talked about there.
Yeah, I think it's a good thing and a bad thing really. I think, going through a period like that, I suppose you kind of want something that can kind of distract you and keep your mind off it. Unfortunately, I'm in a business where it's a performance-based industry, and that's purely what you get judged on. And yeah, having something like that going on behind the scenes can definitely have an impact on performances. But I guess in my case, I've kind of been taken away from that kind of light. So I haven't really been put in the firing line and been put in a position where I can be criticised too much. But yeah, it's good to be back in amongst it and helping the team with my performances. So yeah.
Can I ask what it's like playing in a performance-based industry? It's an experience that I imagine most people won't ever have. But you're humans, you have stuff going on in your life, you're still going to perform. A performance on a pitch might be influenced by a lot of different things, including the opponent. What is that like?
It's a lot of pressure. I think the longer you're kind of in that kind of environment, you kind of get used to it. Yeah, it's nothing new to me really. I'm well aware of what's at stake. We have a job to keep the fans happy, which is simply done by putting on good performances on the weekends and getting good results. But yeah, it's difficult. It definitely takes a lot of mental strength and self-belief, because it's not all good times. You go through, even during a fantastic season, you go through rough times, and you have to kind of be strong mentally, be strong as a group, and get through them. And yeah, I think that's probably the main thing.
How are you at handling outside noise? So you have a man of the match performance. I suppose there's a lot of praise, a lot of encouragement, a lot of positivity. But if you have a bad performance, the opposite might happen. How are you handling those two extremes?
I just think it's football in a nutshell, really. I think you just can't allow yourself to get too high when things are going well, and you can't get too low when things aren't going as well. Yeah, it becomes difficult if you get sucked into all of that kind of stuff. I think in-house you just kind of have to keep your feet on the ground and keep your head focused, and it's just about taking it game by game, really. I think if you look too far ahead and think about what you could possibly achieve or how your season could go, I think it can kind of distract you in what's important, and that's the next game really.
How are you settling in now? Obviously, the performance of the weekend would suggest you're settling in quite well.
Yeah, I've been with the group quite a few months now. Yeah, it's always tough when you come into a new group, a new environment. But I think majority of the squad's probably been in the same boat really. I think it's definitely been a totally new squad that's been put together. So I think a lot of the boys, in fairness, have needed some time to adjust and adapt, and I think that probably showed in the earlier performances in the season in terms of relationships didn't really look like they had been built on the pitch. I think that was quite obvious to anyone that was watching us play. But I think as time's gone on, and we've ticked the games on and ticked the games off, and we've had some bad ones, but I think results and performances have definitely picked up. I think we'd all admit that it's still probably not where we'd want it to be, but we're definitely showing signs of improvement, and there's definitely an increase in team cohesion, which makes it easier when you go out and play. It's very difficult when you're on the pitch and you're not too sure about what your teammates are capable of and what their best attributes are and what their weaknesses are. But yeah, I think with time we've learnt a lot about each other, and I guess now we're playing more to each other's strengths.
Brilliant. Thanks for your time.
No problem.
Is it true that what you were going through with some of your teammates didn't know? Because I heard that when they did find out, like you got a round of applause for.
Yeah, no one knew until the interview came out. To be fair, there was only a handful of boys, maybe 3 or 4 boys that knew in the changing room. I'm not really one to.
Just a private person.
Yeah, I'm not really one to really discuss too much about what's going on, but I definitely hate pity. Yeah. I'm not really one for that. But yeah, it was probably the first time the whole group were made aware of it.